We made a deal to tell this story, and we're telling this story.
This was the moment that broke the fandom. The moment everything changed. Neil Druckmann just confirmed what we all feared. The Last of Us, Season 3 has allegedly been canceled. And the reason? It's the one thing no studio wants to admit. They backed the wrong lead. If the rumors are true, the blame falls squarely on Bella Ramsey's shoulders.
I'm in a very unique position because it's my second go at this story. But I've just now lived in this world for so long, and I am just...
Her portrayal of Ellie in Season 2 has been called one of the most disappointing character collapses in modern TV. And honestly, I think they're right. This wasn't just a miscast. This was a full-on franchise implosion, a catastrophic collapse. That took everything this series built, the prestige, the loyalty, the emotional connection, and burned it to the ground.
Actually, people were critical of some choices that we've made in the show.
Yeah.
And they were saying like, oh, I like this better in the game, and this was more subtle in the game, whatever they said.
Season 1 was a masterpiece. The acting, the tension, the world building, flawless. It pulled in new fans, kept gamers hyped, and had award shows in a chokehold. But then, Season 2 happened. And suddenly, The Last of Us went from Emmy frontrunner to hate-watch territory.
There's a certain privilege that I feel and a certain appreciation of like, you know, as an artist, as a writer, as a storyteller, whatever title you want to put on us, you just hope you find some audience.
Viewers started asking, who even is this version of Ellie? Where's the girl we cried with? Where's the fighter we believed in? Bella Ramsey's version just didn't hit. She wasn't grounded. She wasn't layered. She wasn't Ellie. And now, allegedly, that single casting mistake may have just killed one of the most beloved shows of the decade. But this didn't come out of nowhere. The signs were there from the beginning. You just had to look closely. Let's break down the chaos.
Look how far games have come. That we could have this conversation. It's like you could compare the two, and that the game can sit side by side with an HBO show.
You killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. I'm the one that there's no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Let him go. I let you both live. And you wasted it.
I think this was a slow-moving train wreck, and HBO refused to hit the brakes. From the second Bella Ramsey was cast, the internet lit up with warning signs. Hardcore fans weren't being toxic. They weren't nitpicking. They were raising a red flag about the heart of the show, because Ellie isn't just a character. She's the emotional center of the entire franchise. She's complex, she's broken, she's brave, she's furious at the world, and still finds a reason to fight. But Bella, she didn't bring that. Not even close. She didn't have the grit, the soul, the haunted look in her eyes that told you she'd lost everything and was still standing.
That's weird, I don't know why.
Yes, you do. I'm not stupid and I'm not blind.
Fuck. Oh shit, you were guessing? Look, she's obviously gonna tell you. So just act surprised, okay? None of this has to change things between us.
Instead, we got a watered-down version. A sanitized, awkward, overly modern take on a character who was supposed to feel timeless. And fans said it, loudly. Reddit threads predicted this would happen. YouTube breakdowns dissected every casting flaw. TikTok was filled with side-by-side comparisons of the game's Ellie versus the show's. And still, HBO doubled down. They told us to trust them. They said Bella was perfect. They said she'd grow into the role. She didn't. And now, the show is paying the price, but the performance wasn't the only issue.
It's a completely different show this season. And everything's fine.
You are,
Let's not sugarcoat it. Season 2 was a disaster. The hype was there, the money was there, the audience was locked in. And then it all fell apart. First, the pacing was all over the place. We jumped timelines, we flipped perspectives, and the emotional momentum from Season 1 vanished. Instead of a slow burn that built on trauma and survival, we got an erratic storyline that felt hollow and rushed.
How far down that road did you get in your mind about playing Ellie in a Last of Us film?
I think it just really felt like a big deal. And what I remember, like the highlights of that time were just going to Naughty Dog headquarters, I guess, and walking around with Neil and him showing me how the game is made.
And the arcs? even worse. Characters acted out of sync with who they were. Joel was gone too soon. Ellie was unrecognizable. The writing seemed desperate to prove a point, instead of telling a good story. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud. Bella Ramsey couldn't carry the weight of it. Ellie's trauma didn't feel lived in. It felt like a performance. Her rage was surface level. Her grief came across more like frustration than devastation. And in scenes where we were supposed to feel everything, we felt nothing. It was like watching someone act out a video game cutscene they didn't understand. Fans weren't being cruel. They were being honest. They wanted to believe in this version of Ellie. But Bella's delivery just didn't earn it. And as the season progressed, you could feel the momentum slipping. Critics who once raved about the show, silent, ratings dropped, comment sections brutal. Internally, the pressure was building, fast, and by the end of season 2, it was clear. HBO had a problem they couldn't fix with lighting or music or production value. The center couldn't hold, and everything started cracking. Next, we dig into the chaos behind the scenes. This is where things get really intense, and honestly, it's the part that hurts the most. Neil Druckmann isn't just a showrunner, he's the visionary behind The Last of Us. This was his baby, his story, his characters. And by the time season 2 started unraveling, it's rumored he was deeply unhappy with the direction things were heading. Allegedly, Druckmann pushed hard behind the scenes. He begged for rewrites. He wanted Ellie's arc to mirror the emotional devastation and slow-burn rage that made her iconic in the game. He warned that they were losing the essence of what made the story resonate with millions. But the machine was already moving. HBO had made their decision. They were all in on Bella Ramsey, and they weren't about to admit they'd made a mistake. Contracts were signed, promo material was out, and backtracking would mean opening themselves up to even more public scrutiny. Executives allegedly told Druckmann to trust the process, but I think he already knew. The process was broken, and that's when he started stepping back. Quietly, strategically, not with drama, not with tweets, but with silence. A silence that fans now realize was screaming. Because when the creator of your franchise starts pulling away, that's not just tension, that's a death sentence. Let's talk about the moment that should have set off alarms for everyone. Bella Ramsey's interview where she admitted Ellie would play a smaller role in season 3. At first, it seemed like a harmless comment, a creative pivot. Maybe the show was just expanding its universe. Right? Wrong. In hindsight, that was the smoking gun. You don't reduce the main character's role in a story like this unless something has gone seriously off the rails. This wasn't a bold narrative choice. It wasn't artistic evolution. It was damage control. The truth is, HBO couldn't ignore the backlash any longer. Fan response to Bella had been brutal. Reviewers were calling her performance flat. Gamers were abandoning the show. Even casual viewers felt like something was off. And HBO? They couldn't afford to lose the last bit of goodwill they had left. So what did they do? They allegedly tried to ease her out of the spotlight, without admitting they were wrong. No apology, no recast, just a quiet, calculated sidestep. But here's the thing. Fans aren't stupid. They saw right through it. The reduced screen time wasn't subtle. It was glaring. And instead of fixing the problem, HBO only confirmed that they knew there was a problem all along. And by that point, the damage was irreversible. Now, let's hit them where it hurts. The numbers. Because when everything else fails, data doesn't lie. By the final episodes of season 2, viewership had plummeted. Social engagement was non-existent. #traffic fell flat. Nobody was talking about the show anymore. And when they did, it wasn't good. The merch that sold out during season 1? Collecting dust. The fans that once organized rewatch parties? Ghosted. Critics who used to sing HBO's praises? Suddenly quiet. Internally, this sparked full-on panic. According to whispers from insiders, execs were scrambling. They'd poured millions into the franchise, only to watch the cultural momentum vanish overnight. And it wasn't just about prestige anymore, it was about profitability. If season 3 couldn't bring the audience back, it would be a massive financial liability. And that's when the conversations allegedly started. Not about how to fix it, but if it was even worth saving. I think that's when the cracks turned into craters. When everyone behind the scenes realized the golden goose had stopped laying eggs. And from there, the spiral was unstoppable. This is the part no one saw coming. Insiders now allege that Neil Druckmann pushed for the cancellation, not because he wanted to kill the story, but because he couldn't stand watching it fall apart. Allegedly, he told executives that season 3, if made under the current vision, would be a betrayal of everything he created. The storyline had already drifted too far. The casting missteps couldn't be undone, so instead of continuing the decline, he allegedly chose to walk away and take the show down with him. And now the industry's in shock. Social media is blowing up. TikTok edits, breakdowns, conspiracy theories, everyone's scrambling to make sense of it. And fans aren't holding back. Some blame Bella, others blame the writers. But a huge chunk of the fan base is pointing fingers at HBO's refusal to pivot, their decision to ignore fan feedback and charge ahead blindly. The heartbreak? It didn't have to be this way. If season 3 really is canceled, the fallout will be massive. Careers will be affected. Trust in HBO's judgment will be shattered. And most of all, fans will feel robbed. We were promised a faithful adaptation of a game that defined a generation. Instead, we got something that crumbled under bad casting, rushed storylines, and executive ego. And I think Neil Druckmann knew it. That's why he walked. That's why it's over. The only question now, can this franchise ever recover? And here's where it gets even messier. Rumors are swirling that Pedro Pascal, the man who carried the first season, had major creative disagreements during season 2. Some sources say he pushed back on character decisions. Others claim he wasn't happy with how Joel's storyline was handled, especially in contrast to Ellie's shaky arc. Allegedly, tensions between Pedro and the showrunners reached a boiling point. He wanted out, and they let him go quietly. Think about that. The show didn't just lose its main character, it lost the actor who gave the show soul. And guess who that left to carry season 3? Neil Druckmann has always been a polarizing figure, a creative genius to some and a control freak to others. But one thing's for sure, his name is permanently attached to this franchise. So when things started unraveling, it wasn't just the show's reputation at risk, it was his. That's why I think he allegedly took control of the narrative by canceling season 3 before HBO could botch it even more. It's not just damage control, it's legacy protection. And now, his next move could make or break how this story ends. Behind the curtain, there's even more drama. Insiders in the original Naughty Dog team, especially those loyal to Bruce Straley, the co-creator who's since distanced himself, are allegedly furious at how the show butchered Ellie's arc. There's even speculation that Straley may take legal action, not for money, but to protect the creative intent of the original story. Imagine the headlines. Game creator sues HBO for butchering Ellie's character. That's how deep the damage goes. This isn't just a bad season, it's a creative betrayal. Let's not ignore the human side of this. Bella Ramsey is young, talented, sure. But was she the right choice for Ellie? Absolutely not. And now, whether fair or not, she's caught in the center of a media firestorm. Her name is being dragged through every article, every TikTok, every Reddit post. And it's not just fans, even some Hollywood insiders are allegedly calling this one of the worst casting misfires in prestige TV. Her next roles will be under a microscope. And if the show really is canceled, she might wear that blame for years. I think this is one of the biggest falls from grace we've seen in recent TV history. The Last of Us had everything. The story, the fans, the hype. But one casting decision allegedly triggered a domino effect that might have just ended it all. And the lesson? When fans speak, listen, or risk losing everything.